Hi, and welcome to Close Up with The Hollywood Reporter. I'm Lacey Rose, and I'm joined today by Alex Borstein, Natasha Lyonne, Regina Hall, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Maya Rudolph, Jane Fonda, and Tiffany Haddish.
Hey.
Thanks so much for being here. All right, we're gonna start off with more of an icebreaker type question. Complete the sentence, I do comedy because...
It makes me feel good.
I can be with Lily Tomlin.
Oh, I want to say that.
Yeah, you do. It's just the best.
Yummy. It's who I am.
You took my answer.
God damn it.
Yeah, I was going to say it's because
It's all I know how to do.
That's mine. I can't do anything else. Yeah.
Because it'd be pretty dull otherwise, I think. But also because it's a way in to then do other things.
Yes, smart.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, I like to laugh, so it's fun to, although I guess I'm not laughing when I do it, but I do it to laugh.
She said doo-doo. Just saying.
Caught it.
It's funny, and it's a way of disappearing from self. I think sometimes when things are funny and buoyant, the air gets kind of crackly, and you forget what existence is, and that's always the angle. It's always
That's the goal?
the mission.
Takes us further away from death.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
It's the inevitable.
It's a numbing agent.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I like that.
All right, so you guys are at these sort of peaks in your career right now. I think we can say that universally across the table.
Damn.
So it's downhill.
depressing.
It's all downhill from here. It's all downhill. No, but how
I
much?
wanted to just keep going like this.
Well, maybe you will. But I think the question is, how much sort of pressure do you feel, whether it's internal or external, to sort of strike while the iron is hot and add other projects and other things?
Oh, my God. I mean, that's really funny for me to think about. I'm 81 years old. I left the business for 15 years. Strike while the iron is hot.
How do you feel? Do you feel like you have 15 projects lined up? Is that you? Is that a drive to?
I've always had 15 projects lined up. Y'all just didn't know about them because it was stuff I was making up on my own. I always make sure I stay busy no matter what. And so to me, it's just like doing regular stuff. Now I just got a little more money and more people know who I am, and my family's asking me for stuff more, which is the part I hate. Everything else I love.
That means you're successful.
Yeah, when the whole family's like, because our blood is the same.
I was actually
you
going to
should
ask
give
you
me your money.
something, to be honest, but I was going to wait till the show ended.
But I
I needed a little bit.
What you mean?
I know.
You got to pay me back by my birthday.
Oh, I got to pay it back.
Yeah, you got to pay me back by my birthday, or we can't talk no more.
Got till December.
Wow.
What about you guys? You have 15 projects as well lined up. How much of that is is the pressure you put on yourself versus the sort of industry wanting to sort of get a piece and stay relevant?
I don't really. I think my bandwidth isn't that
Wide?
Thank you. to do like as many as 15, but I do feel like at the very when I was starting out and doing Crashing and Fleabag, and then when Killing Eve came along, I was like, I have to do this. I will break myself to do this because I know that the impact it could have on my career. And then I think I'm now at a stage when for the first time ever, when I think I'm actually going to take a step back a bit and go and recharge and think about what I want to write about again. Because I think when you're writing at that rate for that many years, you sort of forget who you are or what you want to write about again. So I think I'm going to sort of buckle down again and take a bit of time to think.
I feel that way. I'm not writing, but I feel like in terms of it, I feel very thick-headed in the sense that it took me until very recently to realize, oh, you really can get to a place in your career where you can choose more than react to. So I guess if that's the peak, then I'll take it because I like choosing. I don't like being told what to do.
When did you reach that point? When did you feel the confidence to be able to say, oh, I don't want to do that?
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I felt very fortunate that because of starting at Saturday Night Live, I exited with a bit of an army. Yeah. So I was never really alone if I didn't want to be. I could call upon a friend and write something, or I could call upon, I was always happy to, I like playing in groups. Mm-hmm. I'm not a solo artist. I like to
Have a band.
I like to have a band. But I feel like now it's both quality control, but it's also about quality of life. Specifically with Forever, Fred and I chose to work with people that we wanted to see every day, or else we didn't really want to do it.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Jane, you just mentioned the career that you've had. What have you learned from how to handle the peaks as well as how to handle the valleys?
Embrace it all, you know, and it doesn't have to peak and then be all downhill. It can peak. And then, like, I'm over the hill in a chronological sense, but there's a whole vista out there that I didn't anticipate. And so you can reach the peak and then you can go down and it can be just as interesting, you know, and what other people think are the peaks and valleys, I think it's a good idea not to pay too much attention to it.
I think people forget that on the other side of a peak can also be a really amazing plateau. That's what I feel like for me. I don't want to accumulate any other work. I feel done. I feel like I've gotten to do the best things I want to do, and I'm done. I don't.
What does done mean?
But I also don't. No one's coming to me with any offers either, so I wouldn't know.
Because I got like 3 scripts for you.
Yeah, I have no choices, so it's easy for me to be like, I'm done. But yeah, I feel like it's nice to just exist, and I've got kids, and I really want to
Enjoy where you're at.
Try not to screw them up too much. And,
Good luck with that.
yeah, I know. But yeah, plateaus are good.
Plateaus are good. Regina, you've said, and I'm going to quote you here, there are lists in Hollywood. I was on top of one before. Now I'm on the bottom of a more difficult one. I'm hoping you can sort of expand on that idea and also sort of describe where you fall on one versus the other.
Well, I just, you know, I think I meant, or what I mean is with everything, you have to just enjoy where you are. What's for you is for you. I think before, when I first started, I thought that you got to a place where it was done. And you reached...
What does done look like?
Oh, you reached a level where you know, people knew you, you were offered films, they were great films, but it's not in the way that you think. There's always work, there's always work. So what happens is you have to have an acceptance with whatever place you're in, because it's not a destination arrived, if that makes sense.
It makes sense to me, very much so.
Okay, good.
We're cool.
All right, that makes me so happy.
No, but it does, because I agree with you in that I thought that it would look like what I thought it would look like.
Yes, and then you thought it'd feel different, that you'd feel settled, like, oh, I mean, you really know, like...
Well, the sense of I'll never get another job never goes away, I can tell you that.
That's exactly what I mean, and
My
I thought
dad
that
had
would...
it until the day he died, and I have it, and it never goes away, and it's fine. I mean, you know, we're in a weird business.
Yeah.
We're very much prey to the going fashion, but the fashion changes, and then we can come back, and then we disappear again, and then we come back. One thing I know is that it's really important to have a life outside of our work. And to have interests outside of our work, because otherwise it gets pretty sad.
Yeah.
To Maya's point about this place where you're able to be picky, what are the things at this stage of your career where you're like, just not going to do that? Whether it's a type of role, whether it's a type of project, whether it's just a line you won't say.
I have a fantasy about not working in the summer anymore, but I haven't quite been able to hit it, because then summer pictures come up and you want to take them because you're like, what am I doing? And looking down the barrel of an empty summer. But in my fantasy, I arrive at this moment that we're describing, and I suddenly say, no more July, August pictures, because I have so much hair and it gets very hot under it. And especially in any of these sort of multitasking jobs where you're writing, directing, producing, acting, and you're running around and you're sweating, and I don't want to play that game. But like a Dr. Zhivago in the summer I could do, in case anyone's asking.
What are the things that you
could do, Omar.
You won't do?
Thanks.
No one's asked me to do nudity, so I'm good.
Well,
I wouldn't. I think I wouldn't be naked anymore.
No. I mean,
Right now, Maya. Right now.
Well, that's different. Yes. I feel like it's literally tugged.
Taking it up.
I guess I don't. You know what? I am good at saying no. I used to really not. I used to be a lot more passive aggressive about saying yes and then being unhappy in the face and doing things that made me feel embarrassed. Even silly things like when you start to start to make it, and especially as a comedy lady. And you get to do like a fashion spread or something like, and now we want you to fall out of a dumpster while holding like putting your face in a birthday cake in a beautiful gown. And you're like, okay. And I started learning to say no.
But
instead
you're
of
extraordinary at saying no. Like, because I feel like there's such a deep sense of self, of like what Jane's describing, of what really matters in life is so concrete and tangible for you that I feel like it's backed by something, truly important.
I think it's backed. I think it's far more recent than you realize, just as a personal friend. Like, I think you've probably thought that all this time, but really I was faking it. And I think that in recent years, I've gotten better at it because it's about self-care and not. I don't want to feel the anger. Like, I don't want to have a shitty day.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Like, I used to get mad about like when I first started, nobody wanted to even touch my hair. They were like, "What is that?" Like, and I would be, and then all the other Black actors were like, "Don't you bring your own wigs?" And I was like, "No, I don't know." Like, my hair was like out to here. Like, when I started SNL, like they put me under wigs, and I'd have this big bump in the back because they had to like get all my hair under there, and like. I just like had to figure out how to get through the day without wanting to cry or being frustrated or feeling like an other. And so it was like this self-care journey for me of just like, this is how it's gonna be. And I get in and I get out and I have a pleasant day. And part of that is saying like, I don't wanna do that. But not in a shitty way, just in a way that's like, no, that doesn't work for me.
Well, because that is the goal, right? It's like to be, like, I always feel like as soon as I have a sort of, I have like two modes and sort of what you're describing of either I'm, happy to be there and have a sense of that, or I'm in this other mode where it's do I think I'm being punished or something, where, and it can get so quickly warped, like exhaustion can really do that, or a sense of overwhelm can really do that, where I flip into this other person who's kind of suddenly being put upon while realizing my dreams. And like, if I can just see it in real time, I can like hopefully self-correct. But that's dark when that happens.
Yes,
Sure.
it is.
Well, Maya mentioned nudity, and I remember listening to you say that you had turned down, Natasha, that you had turned down some roles.
Several pornos, yes.
Not pornos.
It was a dark period.
Several.
I've known Regina since the 90s. She knows what happened.
She's got about 6 in the can.
Post of Beverly Hills, when you turned down the Buffys and the Dawson's Creek type projects.
Some of the great pornos of our time.
Adult film.
Very adult.
Yeah.
But you since talked about that period and said you regret not taking your clothes off
I do.
more.
I stand by those statements.
But
yes.
why? What does that mean?
I just feel like sometimes, when I see, there's so many, great. I mean, even when we're talking about with Barbarella moments ago or something, of like when you really see this kind of like somebody who's able to be inside of their body, and I don't even mean like full nudity or anything, but I remember Slums of Beverly Hills. I was like 17, and I was scared to even just be in my panties. Like I was so, I think. I had such a warped sense of self and fear of like outside opinion that I didn't want to open myself up to judgment. So I felt like if I can be this kind of, Joe Pesci tough guy persona, then it's kind of keeping you at arm's length of it's not too close, and there's something inherently vulnerable about actually like, here is my skin. And so it felt that maybe even as a child actor who did not get the role of Curly Sue, it's the point to bring it up. But I think I maybe felt like this idea of sort of showing flesh would then open me to a different form of judgment that was beyond even just my work, and it scared me. And now I look back and I think, You also, you're hot. You had this like a nice little, lanky body. I see pictures of me and
That's
Maya
the
on
tragedy of youth.
on
You
the
don't
beach
know
in the
how
90s.
good you look.
Maya and I went to Hawaii in the 90s, and we had two
We
lanky
looked
little tennis
Yeah, you looked
playing.
amazing. And you were
we're
complaining then, weren't you?
Yeah, visors.
That's
We're
the
wearing
worst
big
part.
Hunter S. Thompson aviators. We look so cute.
That's
But
why
I
you
was so scared.
Boobies up.
Boobies
here.
up to here. And
That's why you should be naked when you're young.
and that's why I sort of
you want to have that on film.
And then you can do these pictures where you're kind of like, as you're getting older, you're like, it becomes about the character you're playing, not about the fear of nudity. Like if you become like an actor who's just embodying the role in a way that I think I affiliated it with fear too early on to ever sort of shift it and be like, now at 35 is the time for it. It just never made sense afterwards.
Where do the rest of you sort of stand on how comfortable are you? Yes, you seem like you have an answer, Tiffany.
I mean, how much they paying me?
But is that all? But is that what it is?
I mean, this is just, I'm just borrowing this flesh suit. I'm gonna give this back to the Lord anyways. It's going back to the dirt. Might as well share it if I can feed my family.
But you
whatnot.
haven't to date.
No, because ain't nobody came with the right kind of money.
Tiffany, I have an adult film that's going to lead you straight
Is
to
it me and Michael B. Jordan? I'm a method actress.
Yes.
Me and Trevor
I think
Noah.
it depends on the part. I think
Trevor
it depends
Noah.
on
like
the
that.
part and what it is
like
and
that.
if it's how it's written and how it's shot and if it's gratuitous or if it means something. I think it just, like, I wouldn't say I wouldn't do it. It would just depend on what it was and who was directing it, you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
like so many components.
The quality of, what's the quality of it? If it's like, if it's like
Gratuitous.
a classy situation, but if it's like some super raunchy nasty, it better be freaking hilarious and I better be getting paid.
By the way, I'm the idiot that brought it up. I was joking because I'm like, nobody asked me. But the truth is, like, I feel like I never really, like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about stuff in tomorrow or in 20 years. Let's see. And if it's terrible, no. But if it makes sense, and this isn't, I'm also still not just talking about nudity, but since I'm the idiot that brought it up, I don't know how I'm going to feel about something in 20 years.
Like right now, I don't want to do scary movies. Anything that got something to do with demons or me getting cut where I'm bleeding to death, I don't want to do.
Yeah, but if Jordan Peele called and was like, here's this amazing story.
And I'm going to be like, how many demons is in it? Because I'm not fucking with no demons.
might be the
Period.
For me, I feel like every day you show up and you're giving so much of yourself everywhere and to everybody. And I feel like the one thing that I have is this little mushy, little pasty white form, and it's mine. And I feel like it's special, and I'm a filthy slut with the right person. Like I will be, walking around and whipped cream on the nipples or whatever. But in terms of outside and anyone else, I just feel like this is my.
Without the whipped cream.
This is my. You gotta have something that feels
Whipped cream,
yours and safe
check.
and special.
Michael B. Jordan.
Like, you need to know what it's for.
Yeah,
though.
that's
Like,
how
I think
I
if you know in the scene sometimes just what it's for and what you're trying to do, because I think if you can't really tell why you've got your tits out, I think you're probably in the wrong.
Correct.
There's some purpose.
Because I remember saying really early on, because as a young actress, I would find it really intimidating whenever I saw, because you'd see so many young actors on stage and on screen and movies and stuff, and they'd all have to do it. So you knew there was a ticking clock. Like, if I want to be an actress, it kind of means I'm going to have to do that. And then obviously the ones that we'd see all the time were like perfect and gorgeous girls. So this is kind of like, so I was like, I'm never going to do it because it distracts me as an audience member. And then I'm jumped out of it all the time and I'm thinking about those actors' bits. But then this play came along when it said that I had to have my top off for 20 minutes. I was like, damn, because it was really powerful what it was in the scene, and not in like it was really powerful kind of way. Like, but it was like what it did. Like my character taking her top off freaked the other guy in the scene out so much that he starts behaving in this terrified way because she's using it as his power game. And I thought, like, I know how to play that. I know that I'm playing my nudity rather than just having to look like soft lighting.
But you're right that it does. The audience in that theater moment, we're also just as freaked out.
Yeah.
So it does jump. I think maybe that is. Whenever I see someone else do it, I feel like, oh, that's Julianne Moore's pussy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's not the character's pussy.
There's
That's
a character in the
her
room going,
pussy.
that's her pussy.
It's done. Like it's
When I saw Fleabag, I was like, I wish I could do that. I really wish I could do that.
I felt that way about Viggo Mortensen and Eastern Promises in the sauna. I was like, I wish I could do that because that took real cojones. That was like fascinating to watch. He's mad.
I couldn't watch
doing it.
I just saw nothing else. All I saw was.
There's some.
That's all I
What is the name of it? I want to go and see
Eastern
it.
Promises. Eastern Cronenberg.
That's really
But now with
interesting.
modern
You never
technology,
showed
they
your-
could
your-
just,
your
get a body double and put your head on somebody else's.
No, but this is really interesting.
Just a
'cause-
bra. You just
Wait
have
a
to
minute.
see it.
Because I just cleared up that I'm not naked on nude
I
at any
thought
point
you
in the
showed
show.
your tatas. You
Yeah,
don't?
but loads of people do, and the weird thing is, it's because
never
I
did?
always thought like, no, it was really important to me that that I
you
never
never
showed
do.
anything. But because she's so candid
Right.
with her language,
It's just your back?
It feels like, but looking to the just my back and shoulders and arm and neck and face.
Do you do face nudity?
I do face nudity occasionally. I take my moustache off for special occasions. But I am.
The face nudity is, I mean,
We're all a bunch of sluts here right now.
it was Bertolucci and self-focus, but
That's really
yeah,
interesting.
but I always felt like-
and you just made me fall more deeply in love with you because you're correct in that is what you were telling me. Like I bought the whole picture because of your character. So I thought you had great tatas.
Oh, also.
So you took it to
a
the
trick
next
of
level.
the-
I love that. Jane, Grace, and Frankie and your movie Book Club both portray older female sexuality, which traditionally has only been treated as sort of a joke or ignored entirely in film and TV. Why haven't we seen it until now, and why was it important for you to be a part of a project like this?
Why we haven't seen it until now? Well, culture doesn't like people with wrinkles to be talking about sex.
Or just
Kids
people
don't
with
either. They don't like to think about their parents doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the fastest growing demographic in the world are older women. And a lot of them are doing it very pleasurably.
I want to learn.
And I wrote a book about it, and I know a lot about it, and I gave it to the writers. And when I was in my 40s, I said, before I die, I want to be part of giving a cultural face to older women. And I can't tell you how much feedback Lily and I get from older women who say it's given me hope. And not so old women saying, I now see another way forward, you know? So I think it's great that we're doing it, and we're having a blast, actually.
Is the line different when you're dealing with older women versus a 25-year-old woman in terms of what you can do and how far you can push it?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have been talking about vaginal dryness in Barbarella. or coming home. You know,
coming home.
Lily makes vaginal lubricant out of yams, which I think is jam, and I put it on my toast. And, that kind of thing. We don't, that kind of thing. Like all the issues that happen when you're older. Like vaginal dryness. Problems with erections and things like that, and so it's fun to deal with it all. I just want to say that you were right. I did push you away, but Nick, I've changed.
You say that.
No, I mean it. And I'm better for you than whatever age-inappropriate sorority girl you're having lunch with.
Great, because here she is.
You really only have two types, don't you?
Grace, this is Kathleen, my mother.
No. Then there's the issues of when you have a younger boyfriend who has low furniture and you can't get up.
Oh, that's now.
How about not being able to get up off the toilet? Is that, no, you're too young.
I fall asleep on the toilet. It's horrible. Really? I can't feel my legs afterwards. I be tired.
Are you on your phone that whole time?
No, I'm like, I sit on the toilet and then I'm like, then it's like 5 in the morning and I'm like, I can't feel
You have 15 jobs.
my legs.
But I talk about this idea a lot of more stories being told. I assume it's because there are so many places to tell stories compared to
Absolutely.
when we were all
Right.
starting.
Yes.
So there are more people telling the stories. And every time we find that there is an eager and hungry audience, that people want to connect with these stories, and not just because they're at the same age, but because the more specific, the more exciting and interesting it is.
Sure.
I heard that so much about Russian Doll in its specificity, that because of its specificity, it resonated.
Well, but I would say that what we're kind of talking about in a way is this flip that's happened, right? That's so profound, which is it's an empowered version of telling our stories our way, which makes it have possible impact and relatability for the viewer, right? So in other words, it's not vaginal dryness in a person over 50 as a punchline.
Right.
It's with purpose and intent, and that changes everything.
You've described Russian Doll as being about a sort of a metaphorical bottoming out that you have a close relationship to.
Thank you.
Can you?
Peaks
you've
and
said
valleys,
peaks and
plateaus.
valleys.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you, and why were you ready to tell that story now?
Well, you know, I mean, the wonderful thing about the Valley is there's no risk there. You know what I mean? There's, you know, so, I mean, I can remember early on, you know, seeing sort of peaks and thinking, okay, so and then this is it. I guess we've arrived. And then you discover, of course, there's no there. I mean, you know, these two ladies I've known from round one, and I'm, you know, so close with now and whatever round two, but it's also, who cares? I mean, it is a life. We live, we die. Why not sort of talk about that while we're here and try to make that a kind of, you know, a human experience? And of course, we love jokes because they're funny and they sort of relieve suffering. I remember, you know, the great Tyne Daly told me once, like, what do you want to be, kid? You want to be in The Walking Wounded? Be a soldier. A plumber goes to work, they plumb. They come home, they turn on the TV, and that's your job. Meaning that there's this separate world, which of course is a Jew and a Talmud student. I love to be hyper-analytical about what does it all mean, and like, what's the point, and what is ambition, and what is a life. I definitely wanted to make a show that kind of addressed that in sort of sideways stabs. It's my favorite language.
It means a lot to me. And something else that also means a lot to me would be if you would tell me if you think I'm a bad person, or maybe I've committed some serious misdeeds, and you could come and talk to me about that tonight, would be super hot, okay? For my birthday, tell me if I'm a bad person. Okay, cool.
Oh, thank you
you.
so much, Nadia. I would like to dedicate this night to Chong, my uncle, who also had a hard time saying thank you.
You've obviously been very open about your struggles, but I'm really curious about the sort of period right after, as you were trying to work your way back into Hollywood, and you had to be willing to take sort of lesser jobs than you were capable of, and you had to have friends sort of vouch for you. How do you ultimately convince Hollywood to take you back? And obviously you did.
Oh, well, thanks, gang. And, you know, I mean, I think the simple truth also about, you know, in any conversation about recovery in general is that the truth is things take time. You know, we have such a kind of fantasy and about, you know, like, I think that the movie 28 Days is inherently sort of problematic for us as a society. Not that it's not a funny and wonderful movie. I'm happy they made it, but it's dangerous to think that things take, you know, oh, I'm going to go off, I'm going to talk about it, here I am, cover of Us Weekly, I'm better now, let's get back to business, you know? And I do think that additionally, as a woman, as a character actor, people were sort of, you know, it didn't mean as much on a box office level that, like, I'd left and now was returned. It didn't, you know, so I think it's kind of a slow build. If you just show up, you do the work, you're kind of on time. It's kind of like the day-to-day, and what's so lucky about, you know, any period of kind of when you're describing a kind of, you know, an exit, ultimately I do think that it's like we're all entitled on the level to like dropping out at some point. You know, at least mine is sort of the tangible variety, so we can like touch it and talk about it cleanly. But the truth is it gave me time to sort of reassimilate as an adult human being in the arts and figure out who do I want to be in this game? What do I want to say? What do I want to do? What do I care about?
Yeah.
Well said.
So good.
So then that's fun. You know what I mean? So it's actually a very lucky thing because now I'm like, you know, inspired to keep going.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Rather than feeling like they burnt me out. Now I'm like, now we're getting to make our things.
Yep.
You know, so it feels very different.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I want to talk a little bit about sort of career navigation. Alex, I'll start with you. You obviously have spent many, many years on Family Guy, where you're also a writer and a producer and have a lot of control over what this character is saying and doing. I'm curious sort of what it's like to then segue into a project like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, where it's somebody else's words.
It's freeing. I mean, I started writing, actually. I'm really more of a writer than an actor, and started doing daytime animation, and then Mad TV, which is kids. It's kind of like Saturday Night Live, but different. But we wrote, a lot of our material on that, and then working on Family Guy, I did voices, but then also wrote. I wrote for Shameless. Like, I'd say I'm probably more of a writer, and the writing is the hardest part of anything. It's so hard. It's so taxing that to just act is like, oh my God, this is so great. To just show up and it's not your problem. But it was right. I did a project called Getting On before Maisel, and that was very challenging because it was a comedy, but there was also some drama, and there was a lot of had to be a little more vulnerable and three-dimensional, and so that was challenging. But now the challenge is Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is our scripts are like 100 pages, and there's so much dialogue, and it has to be exactly word perfect. You can't say the dog if it's that dog. And I'm so bad at it, and it's so hard. So that's a huge challenge.
Hello? What the fuck are you doing in New York and I'm in the Catskills?
Oh, I had to come back.
And you didn't tell me?
But I'm sorry.
I came up here because of you.
I know.
I looked all over this nightmare place trying to find you. I went to bingo and bunny hop and color your face, nowhere.
Susie.
I went to the beauty parlor and the indoor skating rink, a skating rink in the middle of summer. What group of total and complete assholes needs a skating rink in the middle of summer? How the fuck did these people make it out of the desert to begin with?
And in terms of why that role, I mean, I've heard you talk about, I don't want to do moms. I mean, there are certain things, and you can sort of tell me the list of...
I don't get offered anything. That was the only thing there was to do. I wish I could say it's really interesting, and I turned this down and down.
But there are pieces of it.
I've known Amy for many years, and she kind of had me in mind, I think, she says, and I had just left the country. I was moving out of the U.S. and kind of done, and she was like...
So where?
Yeah, where'd you go?
Barcelona.
You still live partially in Barcelona.
Yeah.
Nice.
And she's like, I know this is going to probably fuck up your whole life, but will you read this? And then I auditioned for it, and then...
But ultimately, what was it about the character, regardless of what else you had, that made you say, I can do this?
Flat shoes.
Flat shoes was it?
Flat shoes, no girdle. I knew it'd be comfortable. She was, not a mom.
Why is the not a mom so important to you? I've heard you say
because I do that already. That's like my real life. I do that every day, and
once you become a mom, then you're usually assumed to be a mom as an actor. That's usually what I get.
I just feel like
oh, you're a mom. You're gonna play a mom.
I don't think I'd be interesting doing that on camera and other people's children. I mean, the worst, right? No, I also I'm uncomfortable with kids on set. I feel terrible that they're working. It makes me really uncomfortable. I liked that Susie was a very independent, bizarre, little like pit bull. I don't know. It just seemed like it would be a fun ride, and it has been.
And it has, clearly, yes.
So is Barcelona in your future?
I still
You live there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
God, that's smart.
lucky you.
It's in my present.
Good choice.
Phoebe, you obviously, again, you are wearing all different hats. Sometimes it's just the writer. Sometimes it's writing and acting. Curious, how do you make those choices? Where are you most comfortable? And I think I've heard you say with Killing Eve, initially it was very freeing, and then all of a sudden you were like, I'm kind of jealous. I'd like to be in this.
Yeah, I guess similarly at the beginning, no one was giving me acting roles, so that I was doing bit parts here and there, so I really wanted to play a character that made me excited. So I kind of had to put my money where my mouth was a little bit, because I was moaning about it so much. I was like, just write one. And then the play came about. And then that did open loads of doors, and then there were like other acting opportunities. And it was just really gut. I mean, early on, I would just take jobs. You just take the job. Just take the damn job. And then, but then as writing came along, again, it's really instinctual with me. And I think I feel the power of writing something. and having that control over it and being able to author a story and know that you're inviting an audience in with the promise that I'm going to take you on a journey and it's going to be worth it. And I think that is an experience I feel like I might have as an actor now if I get those bigger roles, but back when I wasn't, it was the smaller roles and I didn't have that feeling of like, I want to take people on a journey. And so that was really driving me over the last few years. And then also writing stuff just came along more.
Yes, Jane, I mean, Bond being the latest thing that
yeah, I mean,
that comes along.
That was a gut instinct to take that one.
Yeah,
yeah,
fair enough.
But I think actually, you know, acting in Killing Eve, I felt very early on that it just didn't feel right, and I don't really know why. I just felt like I'm not in there, I can't see it. And then we had conversations with producers and I sort of spent, I think, about 15 minutes trying to turn one of the characters into something I could play, and the character was going, fuck off, like, I don't want you anywhere near me. And so it just felt much more organic to do it like that. And then there are times when they're having so much fun, or like you've got those amazing actors and you're kind of on set, you just sort of want to get involved and, you know, have to go with everyone. But it's just when the fun bits, you know, but then with something like Fleabag, that character comes from like the depths of me, so that's a different
I'm curious on Fleabag. I mean, you talked a lot about sort of when you started with the first season that it was about this sort of, you were inspired by the cynicism you felt in your 20s and a bit of the sort of female rage. What inspired this season?
Well, I was completely convinced and had said with a great amount of smug artistic integrity that I would not come back for a second series. But the idea really came from, again, the journey I'm going to take the audience on, because what was exciting for me about the first series was I felt like I'm inviting the audience in because it's direct address, and then by the end the character is trying to push the audience away, and so I wanted the audience to feel complicit, and that was a strange strange experience for them. And because she knocks the camera back at the end of the last series, I was like, well, she doesn't want them there anymore. She doesn't want you there, so I can't. And her guard is down because she admits something at the end of the series, which makes her very ashamed, and her guard's down. So the idea of bringing the camera back in and her going like, forget about that, you know, like I'm back again. It just felt really false, and so so I thought I was going to leave it, and then I had an idea of how I can play with the form again, and what the audience would mean to her again, and what she would mean to the audience, and what that relationship had to be new, because it was new for me coming back to this audience. There's a slight coyness going like, okay, I know you know everything about me now. Is the character, whereas the first series was her going, I never want you to find out, I never want you to find out. And then at the end it's like, whoa. And this series begins with her going, I know you know everything, so we're going on a different journey together. And when I realised I'm just obsessed with an audience's experience of anything. And so when I clicked into that, I was like, now I'm ready to play her again.
Would you do more?
No. Smugly.
Smugly. I don't believe
you
would do more, exactly.
No, well, apparently I'm not really allowed to say that I would never do another one. But I think I've ended this one in a way that she can't come back. But never say never. So you're a cool priest, are you?
A cool priest?
Yeah.
No, I'm a big reader with no friends. Are you a cool person?
Oh, I'm a pretty normal person.
A normal person?
Yeah, a normal person.
What makes you a normal person?
Well, I don't believe in God.
I love it when he does that.
I'll tell you, I saw the show and immediately fell in love with you and your show. And then I was very lucky. I was just in New York and I saw her do it live at the Soho Theater. And whatever you think, you know, you're just phenomenal. It was the best thing I've seen. Just such an experience and beautiful. And there's just one person in a chair, and it's just so powerful. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Regina, I want to turn to you. I think one of the things you've talked about with Black Monday is this idea that you were excited not to be the sort of the joy killer, and there were certain things about this role that were freeing for you. Can you speak a little bit to that and what made you say yeah?
Well, I think a lot of times, you know, when you have a group of men or whatever tone the show is, especially it's comedies, the woman always comes in and says, okay, stop acting silly, and they have all the fun.
The finger pointing,
and then
yes.
The wet blanket.
Rolling.
Yeah, you're the wet blanket. And I didn't want to, that wasn't even what I was saying no to. I wanted to have a character on a show that wasn't auxiliary to a husband or a boss. I wanted to have something that was fun, and I always felt like there were so many worlds that I look at on television that I watch that are interesting, and maybe there are no black people in them. And I was like, there are themes and periods, and it's like, oh, I wouldn't. And you want to do something that's just like, that's rich and layered, and like your show would be very difficult where I would be able to, because that's just not the truth of the period. And sometimes you want to do stuff, and you have to be honest to the truth of what was going on at that time, or then it doesn't work. So I just love that, to be able to be in a period piece, and we can't go back with so many periods, because then we turn into slaves. I mean,
It depends on where you at.
yeah, depending on where we are. But if it's American, and then you want to go to the '60s, and it's although there are beautiful stories within that, but then it's what Hollywood is going to make. So it was great to be able to be in the '80s and be successful. And be in a world that's, no matter what color you are, a woman who's Spanish, black, white. They just weren't in really Wall Street, and they still really aren't. So to represent a demographic that's not normally present in a world, even today, was fun. But then for her to be as cunning, as sharp, and as wild and unapologetic, and kind of, she's as gross as the men. She just knows that there are moments where business has to get taken care of, or it won't get done. But she's not judgmental of it. And I liked to be able to do that.
You don't get it, Mo. Wall Street is not the roller coaster you are, and I'm tired of hanging off the back. I didn't hate your Blair plan. I hated that you didn't tell me. Look, I can call my guy, Kirk Covington, right now and stash all that fat right in his family trust.
Yes.
All you gotta do is give me the piece of the Jammer Group that I deserve.
This shit again?
Now make me your partner, or I gotta go.
I find that most women who I know are like that. They're quite fun, quite delightful, and quite smart and dirty and a little raunchy, and all things. And they're not you. There's no raunch in this one.
It's me.
Definitely not you. You're a wallflower. But none of the women here, they're so complex. And I think it's sometimes we don't get to show the complexity of who we are, and that was just interesting to play.
Sure, I think so. I mean, that feels like a natural segue to our wallflower. Signing on to the last OG and starting that comes right after this huge breakout success in Girls Trip, which obviously you two did together. You then go into somebody else's vehicle. And I'm curious, again, the question of how do you sort of navigate that? Is it freeing? Is it frustrating? And how do you sort of find your place in that?
At that time, Girls Trip hadn't come out yet. It hadn't come out when I took that job. And had I known, I believed Girls Trip was gonna do good, but if I would have known, like somebody was like, it's gonna make all this money, you about to go like, ooh yeah. And I would have been like, well, I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to do my own show. I'm going to do Hollywood Haddish.
And you still can. And now you still can. Well, after the bank.
Well, we're opening up our bank. Yes, Hall, Haddish, Federal. Yeah. We're opening up because I've been on YouTube a lot, and I found out that you can open up your own bank.
I like that.
So we're going to have our first black female-owned bank. All of you guys are welcome to join.
Would you like
give us your money.
Give us your money.
Yeah.
What is Hollywood? Okay, but on a more serious note, what would Hollywood Haddish? I assume there would have been a different name. What would that be?
That would be a really fun show that would talk. I haven't seen a show that's dealing with female comedians, like the world of female comedy and how that navigating in a man's world, and how it's such a boys' club, and like really doing stand-up, like for real stand-up, female stand-up comics, and how like difficult it is, and how you have to kind of like fight and like kind of be like fight your way into that boys club and be like, yo, I'm just as funny as you. I can be up here just as long as you. I can pack out this theater just as much as you can pack out this. Sorry, I'm getting passionate about it. But it would be about that, and then trying to have that regular life where you want to date and stuff, but guys are afraid to date you because they think you're going to talk about them on stage, which is like, please, you're not that popping. But a lot of guys think they are that special. I don't know why, but they do. They think that anyways, my show would be about that, and trying to also be, a family member, trying to be, lift up my family. Like, it would be about my life.
That's coming.
Yeah, it would be about my life. But I wrote it already. It's written.
You better do it quick, because now that you've talked about it,
I was about to say,
it's already written. Come on. Let's go. I just pitched it. Who wants to buy it?
And yet here you are in this other show. So when you're trying to sort of find yourself in this character, what pieces of you did you bring to her?
I brought my sophisticated business side to Shay. Also, I brought my ratchet side to her when I play the younger Shay, and also as the older version.
You have a history of scaring white people.
Why she doing me like this? I'm rich, bitch. Look at me. Look at this dress. This dress, $700. You see these shoes? Don't tell me to be quiet, okay? I got a library card, so do my men. As a matter of fact, we done donated a gang of money to this little raggedy library. This is where I live, okay? I've been living here for quite some time. Just tell him this is my property, that we live here as husband and wife. Tell him.
What? Those were actual incidents.
The writers on the show are so good. I would love to kidnap all of them and use them for everything
For Hollywood
that I do.
Haddish?
Yeah, for Hollywood Haddish and everything else I do. But they're really amazing writers, and so I don't have to do too much. I don't have to put a whole lot of me in it, because they already write it with me in mind. They already make it so easy for me.
Sure.
So.
And Maya, I know in your case, this forever started as you wanted to do something with Fred. You brought in a showrunner, and then you sort of explored ideas.
It was actually Natasha's idea. She said that Fred and I should play a couple, right?
Well, Fred kept talking about the two of them who I'm lucky enough to have so much in my life on a daily basis. Where we're talking about, they're both saying the same thing. I just want to go to work, have a nice thing,
together.
And they love each other so much. They essentially are, marry each other's they're each other's partners.
Comedy, we're comedy married.
So why?
But I didn't have the idea. That's all.
But how did you ultimately land on this idea? And I know that idea of death was one that you were fascinated by.
It was,
yes.
I am. I get more and more fascinated by it every single day. It really was, the baseline for Fred and I was, let's make sure we can show up to work together. We love working together. We wrote together for so many years at Saturday Night Live. He's one of my favorite people to perform with. And then I'm genuinely just a fan of his. He makes me laugh. And he's no bullshit. There's no drama. He doesn't come in and he's like, oh my God, I lost my arm last night. There's nothing.
Is that what other actors do?
Yes, sometimes.
There's a lot of drama.
There's we both said, we made a pact. We're like, we're grown-ups now. And we want to enjoy work and then go home. Because I think we really did, sketch comedy is and writing sketch comedy and performing what you do is a very intense experience. It was like a 6.5 day a week job for me at the time. And I burned a little part of myself out there. And then I just took everything else with me. So we really wanted it to be something that we helped create. But really, when we met with Alan Yang, who's such a prolific and great writer and a total adult for such a young man, and he said, I have some ideas. But we both laughed about it later. We said, sometimes people say they have ideas and they send you 3, but he sent 30. And the one that he sent that we both agreed on, he said, the two of you play ghosts. And that was it. You're just ghosts. And that was really all it was. Then, of course, Alan being Alan, once he really just sent us an outline, it really was about a relationship. I've just become so morbidly curious about death. And the more I age, and after I created children, I think a lot more about life. And
you think about there being the possibility of something beyond it, or the act of dying?
I think the possibility of something beyond it, to be more specific, yeah. I mean, I was a kid when my mom died, and so I had a fear of death growing up for the majority of my younger life, but I realized as an adult, I also had a very large imagination about the afterlife. And I hadn't, right? So I had, and that's why we're both scaredy cats, because I was like, oh no, things are gonna come back. And But then, and I know this sounds, maybe silly, but it really does come from a place of complete love. I was such a huge Prince fan from since I was a little kid. And so I realized when he died that his music really was a huge part of my life. And I was really grieving a large amount of something that I chose for myself and what helped shape me and form me musically, both just personally, was gone. And that part of my life, and it wasn't coming back. And I wanted more. And I thought more about where is it going? And God, all these people that we accumulate and love and these people that we make on this, where the fuck do they all go? And wouldn't it be great if we could hang out with them later? Doesn't that make it less scary and make it more exciting? That's what I think about. But then the funny part was really the idea of the show really was just about the banality of marriage.
Right.
I think my contact lens fell out.
Oh, no. Really?
It's not in there. I'm not used to these things, Can't have gone far.
Shoot.
Right around here. I'll find it.
No, let me. I'll look for it. Ugh. So wet down here. Disgusting. Oh, wait, is this it?
Ah.
Is it a fingernail? Ew.
Well, it's a boot rental place, so it's probably a toenail.
Oh.
First of all, I could not wait to see your show because I'm obsessed with you, as you know. but to the extent that I really try and avoid reviews of things that I want to see as well, because I hate knowing anything because that's not how the storyteller intended it, for you to know before you see that thing. And I saw this review and I was like, no. And then the first line said, I don't want to tell you what happens in this show. And it was such a beautiful thing to say. And I realised that now, because I was like, yes, correct.
We really tried hard because it
but
needed to be a journey.
It's worth it because the twists and the revelations that the characters go through, we have to be with you. We have to be empathising with you in those moments. And the bit when you realise that you're dead, and that's when the panic attack happens, but about the banality of it then. And that's actually, it was just so clever, because we're supposed to have that panic attack just before we die. And she's like, no! In a way that she's worried that her death is going to be less exciting than her life. And I just thought that was such a beautiful and profound and kind of frightening thing. You gave me a bit of an existential crisis there.
I love that combo of the profound and sad and deeply depressing, funny. Mm-hmm. That's a nice combo.
I think that runs through all of our shows, actually, that kind of pain. And I think actually they live so closely, comedy and pain. But I think that desperation, that need is so clear in all of them.
Well, I'm going to segue a little bit on. I know you two made a huge splash, I think last year when you were on the Oscar stage. It was last year. I think by the time you got off that stage, there was already a petition of we need you to host the Oscars together. I'm curious, if you were to be asked to do that together, is that something you would say yes to, or is hosting the Oscars at this stage of comedy just a death wish?
I'd say yes.
Yeah, I'd do it with you.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
So there you go. You're fun. That was the thing that was so nice, was we got on the phone before, right? Yeah. And I was like, what do you want to do? And she was like, listen. And you were in the middle of you were between parties, changing shoes, changing outfits, and we were just what do we want to do that's going to sound like both of us? We'd never met, we'd never worked with each other. I just loved her from afar, and then she was so game. It was all those tools that I learned working at Saturday Night Live. Okay, when the host comes in, you gotta have something ready for him. And she was just yeah, whatever. And then she was like, I'm not gonna take my shoes off, but you can if you want to. We were just, and she was like, your toe's gonna fall. We just kind of, that's the way I like to work. Yeah. And then we were happy, and then
we had so much fun.
Yeah.
We were on the phone for an hour, and I was like, girl, I'm still driving on my way to the place.
But also you had just met Paul, and Paul was like, she's amazing.
Yeah, I dragged him to a music video set, and then everybody was like, oh my God, PTA's here, oh my God.
But also didn't you go to school in the Valley at some point or something?
Yeah, I went to
anybody that's ever lived in the Valley or near the Valley, he's obsessed with. So then he was like, all right, she's cool.
Yeah, I didn't even live there. I just caught the bus there, every day.
All right, complete this sentence. I knew I made it in Hollywood when
I did the Arsenio Hall show, and he picked me up, and I licked his face, and it tasted like Ovaltine.
What? It tasted like Ovaltine?
Yeah, I was like, he doesn't use foundation, he uses Ovaltine.
Oh, maybe it's like cocoa butter.
It was delicious.
Do you do it often?
Nope. Nope, I just
It
wanted
was
to
just
make sure
something
that
about
was real.
him that made you want to lick his face.
I always liked him. Like, I still like him. I've always had a crush on him. And then, like, for him to pick me up like that, I was just like, is this real? Yeah.
What about the rest of you guys? Are there moments where
arrived? I feel like, well, that they made a New Yorker cartoon out of us presenting at the Oscars, and that was really exciting for me. I had it framed.
Really?
Oh yeah, I identified it. I
New Yorker,
remember. I was gonna go with something more recent, but you're taking me back to. I remember when Orange Is the New Black, the first season, they did a Mad Magazine spread of us, and I was like, oh, this is real. Like this is big boy shit right here. We are Mad Magazine caricatures.
Yeah, that does feel big.
That's wig.
Regina, were there a moment for you along the way?
You know what makes me feel that way? When you meet people who you admire and they know your work.
Yep.
That's a moment when I feel it, because most of the time I don't expect people to know me. And so when it's someone I love, the first time I admire, and then they go, I love your work, that is when I feel like, okay, it's that.
What about for you, Jane? I mean, are
I
there
can't
still
answer
people?
it, and I don't know why. I'm racking my brain.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I was the daughter of Henry Fonda. Something I don't know, but there was a no time. I don't know what that means or why. You're still waiting for it. Maybe
It's coming. It's coming for you,
What
Jane.
about when we met?
Arsenio Hall.
That I knew.
It's so loaded
It was happening
because
for
it's
me.
a human question, right? It's like you don't arrive as as an actor. Where you going?
Well, Jane's not going to see what we see when we
Right.
see
You
Jane,
can't
right?
see-
Like,
right.
You don't.
I mean, I was
you are
thinking,
Jane.
was it when I won my first Oscar? And I don't even think it was then. I wasn't.
There's a picture of Jane in the trailer for Black Monday with the moment you won the Oscar. And I was like, I want that hair. Like there was a big scene in the show, and it was like, because there are moments for people that resonate at a time. And you're like, what? And you had a lot of haircuts and a lot of different styles.
Hair
and,
epiphanies.
Yes, hair epiphanies. Hair epiphanies. But I think, like she said, it's very hard for people to know who they are to other people.
Oh,
Because in
absolutely.
your skin, you're very
Isn't when you made
regular.
it like what made you feel like, oh, I'm supposed to be here? Like I always dreamed of being on that Arsenio Hall show. And then boom, I'm there. And it's like I'm supposed to be here.
You're
like
supposed to lick it.
That you're supposed to make sure it's real. Like, I don't know. That sounds nasty. Yeah.
So what are the things at this point, sort of with the confidence that you have, that you push back on? And I know we were with Don the other day, and he talked about how your showrunners sort of push it very far, and there are things where they're very comfortable and he's not so comfortable, and yet there are other things when it comes to sort of race that he's wildly comfortable with.
Yeah.
What are the things where you say, not going to say that?
Yeah, we do that. I mean, there was a joke. I think about drugs, and it was about Whitney Houston, and I was like, I don't want to say that. Artists give so much, you know what I mean? And so to make fun of what was a challenge and an illness, you know what I mean? And the great thing about our writers is they were like, absolutely, we'll just do something else. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Those
identify
things.
with that. I don't like that kind of like low-hanging fruit, snarky humor. I'm like, there's so many real jokes out there, and there's so much funny, weird shit happening all the time. Like, why that? You know, it's
At the expense of someone.
Well, also,
expense,
let's not forget that now we're working in an age where even if you don't write the show and you're just simply hired to say the words, if you say that, they're going to come after you, the actor, right? And it's going to be on social media, and people are going to have filthy things to say, or people will hold it against you, probably, because you're the face of it, as opposed. So I'm just saying, there are so many levels of it now.
I do feel like, though, I do feel like there's something about that portion, like, I don't know, because that's someone there, I don't know, that doesn't feel good to me. But I also do like comedy that pushes it. You know, I don't like being, I mean, I feel like with social media, people feel a little afraid to push it, and sometimes I'm like, y'all just gonna have to be mad. I mean, sometimes a joke is a joke, you know, and there's
I like
room.
that sentence. You're all just gonna have to be mad. Like, that's just,
And they will be, and then hopefully they get over it and move on and be mad at somebody else, because that's sort of the trajectory. Looking back in your careers, what was the most amusing or frustrating or horrifying feedback you ever got going up for a part?
Did I get feedback?
I wanted to play a hooker in the Chapman Report when I went in to audition for George Cukor, and he cast me as the frigid widow.
You weren't hooker material?
I was later in life. Not at that stage.
Not at that point.
Wow.
No.
I love that.
Wow.
What
love
about
that
the rest
too.
of you?
I don't remember getting any feedback.
I do. I've blocked it. You know what, though? I think your agent shielded you. I mean, I
Yeah.
heard she's
I don't think
not-
I want to hear the feedback.
Yeah.
You know what I would do? I would put my phone on voice memo and put it in my bag. I'd do the audition, walk out the room, leave my bag.
You're nasty.
Oh,
For
would you
real?
really? What would you hear?
Come back, be like, oh, I forgot my purse in there. Get my purse.
But you've actually done that.
Get in the car, then
Let me look under the table.
Wait,
Wait, and what would you hear?
You
I
can't
love
do it
that.
they'd be like,
We just
they'd be like,
told everyone.
she's not as urban as I thought she
I
would
knew that
be.
was the word, yeah.
She's
That's the word
not
I don't want to
or,
hear.
Or they would be like, she's so ghetto, I just can't. Her boobs aren't big enough. But I really think we should just go with a white girl. She's not, this role should be changed to white. If her hair was
Wait, how
going
many
better-
rooms did you leave it in?
A lot. It was like my MO.
You two would get into a lot of trouble
Yeah.
with each other, I feel like.
We would get into trouble.
No, I'm the opposite. Like, you know, have you ever gone to your own movie in a theater and then you go to the restroom and people are starting to talk about the movie? I've always been so scared of what they would say. I want to let them know that I'm in here. Don't say anything bad. 'Cause I wouldn't want to hear.
No, I don't
Yeah,
want
I want to hear so that I can grow, and also that I can write jokes about it, and like,
Oh, yeah.
I can
That
like
will-
use it to my advantage.
That's the art.
And
That's
also,
your
like,
artillery.
they be like, oh, she can't read. Oh, geez, if she just could read, it would work. Like, she said every word wrong, and I'm like, they're right. And so then I started reading out loud more, practicing more. Like, it helped me in the long run.
It's like
I mean,
sing
sometimes they
dailies.
hurt my feelings. Sometimes I'm like, damn, what a bitch. I'm never going back in there again. But
you did, and
but
then
I
you left
did.
your bag.
Good for you. I did. And then she was like, wow, she's come a long way. What a breath of fresh air.
What they
So
should have been
refreshing.
saying is, she's so forgetful. This is actually
Right,
her
exactly.
Well, it worked.
There is an element of what you were saying earlier about period pieces. There is an element of reality. And if we're doing a political sketch, there are so many people that can play Michelle Obama. There are so many people that can't. So I really was relegated to racial roles as opposed to what I was normally doing on the show, because I'm a rainbow in here. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not one thing in here. So that's the way I write. And those were the characters that I chose. And then every once in a while I'd get reminded on the show, like, well, you can't play Hillary. Why would you play Hillary Clinton? Like, but it wasn't just that for me. It was like, I just want to be the wife sometimes.
Right.
And like not have that be the story. But that's not just SNL, that's the world.
Right.
Chris Rock had a funny joke once. I mean, it wasn't like a stand-up joke. He just said one time, actually, to my partner, Paul, he was asking when he was writing There Will Be Blood, what are you writing? And he said, it's a period piece. And Chris was like, I don't want to hear anybody like you or Scorsese when they say period piece, because I don't want to play anybody pre-Jackson 5, right? Because it means that you're going to be playing a slave. Like, it's always been my dream to and the period piece and the hair and the cotton, like, it's so limited. And that's the reality of it. So yeah, in the political
world
sphere, I mean, I was asked to play Obama. I had finished the show and then I renegotiated my contract and they were like, well, it exists somewhere.
Really?
Yes, and it was with Obama at the time, and it's really embarrassing. And it didn't work. I also didn't have an impression. Like, we were all sort of like fumbling and figuring it out, and he was still running at the time, but like, I bound my boobs, I wore my little tiny Scott Joplin character wig, and I had a little suit on, and then it was one of those sketches where the real person comes out and tap, 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 I'm the real Obama. And so he and I were waiting together, and I said, and I was like this little, he's so tall and
He is tall.
slender, statuesque and handsome, and I was looking up at him and I was just laughing, like pure humility. And I said, what do you think? And he said, I don't wear a 3-button suit. That was it. I was like, I don't know what that means, but I love you.
I love you anyway.
But also
and then she licked his face.
And then she
why didn't I like his face?
Ovaltine?
Now I know. Like, if I had a time machine, I'd go back.
Moving forward.
But I think one of the beauties of this is that many of you are in this position where if it's not there for you, you write it yourself.
That is where we are in general, and I gotta tell you, like, I feel so lucky.
Yeah, it's great.
I've written so many things that have never sold. They're piled up, but it's creatively.
Yep.
It keeps you busy.
Oh God, I'm just so jealous.
Well, it's wild that that's a new era.
Not comedy.
You can do
Comedy's
good.
the hardest thing of all.
But I feel like, in the sense that, like I learned a long time ago that I'm not a good solo writer. I have to write with another person. That's the way I write. And I have to stop shaming myself for that. I thought that being a writer meant that you went to your office and it was quiet and you did this and things came out of your brain and you were a genius. And I realized, no, I'm a loud person and I have to talk to you to get the idea out. And then you say something back to me and that's how it gets written and that's okay. And like, that's how I want to do it.
I think that's really what you're saying is really how I experience this question of like how you know you've arrived or something, is this idea of sort of a self-acceptance or like a shamelessness around this is how I operate and how I function, and this is how I can deliver myself at my best, and like I'm excited about it, and that feels very good. And like the idea that there's going to be a space and a hunger for what that content is revelatory. I mean, it's a game changer. After so many years of kind of nobody even caring at all, the idea that you can sort of say, this is how I make things, and people are open to it and not self-cudgel around one's own methods of doing it is game changer.
I love that. Okay, we're gonna do one last question. For better or for worse, how do you wish you were more like your character?
Well, in my personal case, I wish I had 9 lives, and similar to other people with existential panics in the Roundtable, it's disconcerting that there's conceivably only one. Now that it's finally going pretty okay.
My favorite thing about your show is that she has these opportunities over and over to make a great choice and doesn't, and I fucking love it. I just they're just slightly different shitty choices, and I love it so much because I think that's the reality. I think I've always said, like, I love the idea of time travel, but not to like be able to completely change something because then I wouldn't be me, but to experience a first of something again because I know it'd still be a shit choice. But I just want to get that feeling of the first time I made that shit choice. I don't know.
Yeah.
What about for you? What's the piece of this character that you wish you were more like?
She has a line in the first season saying, I don't mind being alone. I just do not want to be insignificant. And I feel like I'm a little bit the opposite way. I think it would be, I like to have my kids around me and my family and my parents and my people, and I'm no good solo. I start to spin out. So I wish I could be more of a loner, maybe. I mean, I'm an aloof cunt, but I don't want to be alone. I wish I could actually enjoy it more.
I like that. Regina?
Dawn is unapologetic, and I like that. In a man's world, and she's driven. She's driven like a man. And sometimes, I don't even know what that means, but I think sometimes when women are driven, and we're a little apologetic for being, driven, but she's not. And so there are just things about her strength, even when, she doesn't have it together, that she still plows through that I like.
I think it is both for better and for worse, because I think Fleabag says what she thinks, whether it's to the camera privately or in real life. She says what she really, really thinks in the moment. And I think I'm still learning how to do that. There are so many things in the way, like fear in the way of, but also like the more like you become in the public sphere as well, you just start checking yourself all the time because you can hear how people can fuck with your words. And I think, so that's why writing for me and writing these characters for me is like how I do that. So I write women who don't give a shit because I'm teaching myself how to be one. And yeah, I feel such a catharsis when I do turn to the camera and just like say that fucking line. And then, it's just such an amazing feeling. I'd like to be a bit more like that.
I love that.
And your character like majorly fucked up publicly.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like that, like I want to watch that, but I never want to see that in real life ever. That hurts just to think about.
Yeah.
What about you, Ma? For better or for worse?
My character is very simple. on forever. And I feel like, I don't know, there's something about, I mean, as simple as like her wardrobe is kind of like I kept saying when we were creating her, like, she's one of those women that has like a very specific amount in her closet and it's all she needs. Like, I wonder what that's like. It's a nice, she's like, it's like very together. Like one of those girls that looks clean all the time and like she probably smells good. I watch girls like that and I'm fascinated by them.
I get it. What about you, Jane?
Took me a season to come to care for my character, Grace. I had to go back into therapy and start Prozac.
Wait, why?
Oh, it's.
That's where the vaginal dryness is coming from.
Thank you, doctor. Well, actually, it took me a long time to figure it out because I had a nervous breakdown during the first season, and I discovered it's because the very first episode, our husbands tell us that they're going to leave us after 40 years and marry each other. And that triggered abandon. Oh, this is not a good thing to talk about.
No, it isn't.
But it was a big trigger, and I didn't realize that a character like that could be in a comedy could actually trigger something very profound. And so I love her, and I learned to invite her into the room. And, after the first season, I couldn't have written a backstory for her. And then I wrote like 30 pages, right, like that, without ever stopping.
Huh.
But I don't really want to have to be anything like her.
Oh, but you've explored.
We have too much in common as it is.
The truth is just such a joy to listen to and never fails. Thank you.
Specificity.
That's right. Especially somebody else's. I don't mind.
Yeah, right. Yes.
That's always the best.
And and especially women, we're not supposed to tell our truth specifically. It's very revolutionary.
Yeah.
It's like the ether shifts when women tell their truth specifically.
I'm telling you, I agree with you. I learned how to be a woman by watching other women. Like, I grew up without a mom, so I felt like a female impersonator my whole life.
Me too.
And right?
100%.
Right? And so and I didn't want to ask for the information, so I'd go into my friends' bathrooms and I'd peek in their cabinets and be like, oh, that's facial cream. Okay, we're gonna.
And the other thing is, even when you have your mom, like I have my mom, but my mom and I are so completely different. My mom didn't want me to shave my legs. I was like, I want to shave my legs. She didn't grow hair. She thought it was sexy. I was like, I'm 11 years old and I look like a man by the legs. I want to shave them. And she didn't know how to teach me to do that, because she never had to shave. And so I put baby oil on and pulled my skin up. And then we ended up at the doctor's office. She told me not to shave. But, there are things, and then you watch a television. Or I could have just asked the white girls at my school because they knew. They were like, what'd you do that for? But, you learn from other women. And it's kind of like, I think one of the great things about listening to everyone is that you feel like in your feelings you're not alone. And that vibration of feeling alone makes you feel shameful. And that's like the lowest thing that you can feel. But when you hear someone say, oh, I was scared, or I don't know what I'm doing, or oh, I'm fucked up, or oh, I'm, you know what I mean, or I'm what type of cunt was it?
Aloof.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It seems like an oxymoron.
It does.
And yet,
and yet it works. Yes, it's a perfect puzzle.
It's a new
it's
type
great,
of cunt.
and it's fascinating, and that's what I love about fascinating women is that they're all so different and
complex.
That's interesting to hear about like my mom's still with us and we're very close, but she's always been just beautiful. This Hungarian queen, this princess, and I felt like similarly. I was always like I never felt like a real female because I had that. Okay, that spot's already taken in our house. I'll be this other thing. I'll be this gremlin-y.
I'm
type.
a tomboy. All my mother wanted was a girly girl.
I thought it was
It's a big
tomboy too,
disappointment.
but then I realized later, like all my characters were like drag queens that I was
So
creating.
you're-
These, like amazing, like Vava Vui, like these like ideas of ladies, and then what I didn't realize is that this forum that women now inherently have to share and learn from each other is actually quite normal. I didn't know to like ask other women for advice or opinions because I was embarrassed that I didn't have the answers, when in reality, like we as a gender are different. Women are meant, we are meant to, this is what we do. We share,
Yes.
we talk, we're meant to be in villages.
We stayed behind
Isn't
around the
that so-
campfire.
Yeah,
Why
we
we go to
nursed
the
each other's
bathroom
babies.
talking
And, you
while
know,
they
you
went
don't
out.
have milk?
Yeah.
All right, I'll
Yeah.
give you mine. Here you go. And
I was a proper tomboy. I was called Alex. I shaved my head. I had like boxer shorts. I was a boy.
Did
Until I
people
was
think
about
you were
11.
a boy?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
thought I was a boy too.
Yeah, I did that. And did you love it when they did?
Oh, I thought it was a huge
Yeah,
compliment.
me too. Like, I remember going into like Gap or something with my mum, and the guy said, "What does the young man want?" And I was just like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And when I started getting hair on my legs, I was like, "Thank you." I mean, I was so serious about it, and I think it was because I was really batting against that idea of having to be a girl or girly or whatever it was.
Totally
And I
healthy.
just be the same.
Very healthy reaction.
What about you, Tiffany? Better or for worse? What are
The better part of my character, Shay, I think is like, I love how much she, like, I don't have kids, but if I had kids, I probably would love my kids as much as she loves her kids. It's like she's willing to fight for them and like whatever she gotta do, she gonna do it to make sure her kids got whatever they need. I think I would be like that if I had them. So I love that about her, how much she loves and like tries to protect them. And like I protect my animals like that, but so that's one thing. And I love her sense of fashion. I do not dress like that. She spends money on clothes. I go to the swap meet, or I try to like get it like from the secondhand. But yeah. I feel like her and I've been through a lot of the same kind of things, so I can relate to her a lot. But the way that she protects, I love that.
her people? All right. Well, thank you guys all for being part of this conversation.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Haddish.
Hi, I'm Ben Stiller.
Hi, I'm Amelia Clark.
I'm Henry Winkler.
And thank you for watching
Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable.
Hollywood Reporter Roundtables on YouTube.
On YouTube.
On YouTube.
Hi, everyone on YouTube.